Hello, this is Dr. Lambries again. A little bit of background on this week's presentation that you'll be doing on Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. As you know, the past several months and years, for that matter, have been highlighted by a number of mass shootings at schools, in shopping centers, in grocery stores, at marches. And every time that happens, the debate becomes, how do we handle firearms? Do we have the need to restrict the purchase of firearms? The current extent of firearm registration and firearm background checks deal only with licensed dealers. You can go to a gun show, you can transfer the information on your gun from one person to the next, and it's not reported to anyone. So once you've purchased it, unless you sell it through a licensed dealer, there is no tracking on who has the weapon, where it is, how it's being used, and what the current condition is. You also have issues such as South Carolina, where I can go in and buy any number of handguns and drive to another state and sell them out of the back of my truck. And there is no check on where I spend, where I purchase them, where I send them, who I sell them to. And the challenge, of course, is that you can remove the serial number, so there's no way to track it back to the original purchase. The Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms, and it was written at a time when the armament consisted primarily of single-shot long rifle, black powder, ball, and musket weaponry. They were used for self-defense against Indians and bandits, who were very common on the frontier. They were used for food, for hunting. And during the Revolutionary War, they were called up as part of the militia to help fight the War of Independence. So it was in that context that the Second Amendment was passed, guaranteeing the right to bear arms, and it was also a response to the British habit of confiscating weapons from the colonists at the time. So the question for all of us, is that still valid in today's world? Do we still need weapons designed for military use, designed for one purpose at hand, which is to inflict maximum damage on the target? Or is that beyond the scope of what the founders thought about? Or does that Second Amendment right continue to today in this notion that we, the citizens, since we are the source of government, have the right to defend ourselves in the event that there's a government abuse, or an attempt by the government to put further restrictions on us that are far beyond the bounds of both their Declaration of Independence and the Constitution? So every time this happens, there's an ongoing debate. I have the right to bear arms. It's in the Second Amendment. Well, we need to put reasonable restrictions because the damage is being done by these weapons. And then you have the recent Alex Jones case, where he spent years saying that the Sandy Hook assault was staged. It did not really happen, and that the parents and everyone involved were what are known as crisis actors, whose sole purpose was to drum up publicity against firearms and against the Second Amendment. As you know, he was found guilty and fined in excess of $40 million for his statements. But that still reflects the mentality of the debate we have going on in this country. Those that believe that the Second Amendment is absolute, we have the right to bear arms, and there's a legitimate reason for it. And those that say, I understand maybe self-defense. I understand maybe the need to defend ourselves against government. But the idea of having assault rifles that can easily be converted into fully automatic weapons through use of such things as a bump stock, which is an artificial way to create an automatic weapon, or you can online purchase kits that allow you to modify your weapons to that extent. Is that really what the founders thought about? And do the folks that believe in absolute gun rights have a point that the guns don't kill people, it's the people that buy them? If that's the argument, then are there any ways we can tighten the reins on those that purchase in an attempt to perhaps prevent future mass shootings? The reality is every law in the world will not stop a crook from doing something they want to do. Every law in the book will not necessarily prevent someone who should not legally own weapons from obtaining a weapon illegally and using them in a mass assault, in a mass shooting. So this is an independent research week, and what you're asked to do is go and find at least two sources in favor of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and two articles in opposition that we need to do something about it. Do that brief one-page summary on the arguments in favor, a brief one-page summary of the arguments against, and then what do you think? What's your position on it? And again, you're not graded based on your opinion. You're graded based on your ability to defend your opinion through the evidence that you presented in your discussion and the research that you did. By all means, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. This is an important topic. Make sure you properly cite. That's one of the major issues we've had on previous papers, is some of you have made no citations. Others of you have listed a bibliography of sorts, but not the individual articles. And keep in mind that within the textbook we're using, those are individual articles that you need to cite. I have posted on Wolfden under resources a variety of links to Chicago Manual Style as a resource for all things citation, and a couple guidelines that have been posted in resources from the College of Charleston, and a few readings that are out there about avoiding plagiarism and avoiding the challenge of not using proper citations, and some guidelines. Have a look at those and make sure that you follow those guidelines. And if you have questions about specifics, please let me know. When you cite your work, there are a variety of ways to do it, but I don't have a preference. Just make sure you use one. If your major has a preference, follow that guidelines. If your major does not have a preference, perhaps the easiest way is a technique called cite while you write, and that's fully explained in the materials that I have posted, as well as through the Chicago Style Manual. So have a look, see, let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to reading your work. And as I read through, I am grading them and posting comments on coursework. You'll also notice that I do not use the grade book during the semester. And the reason is that my rubric I use for calculating your final grade is not easily transferred into the system that we use. What basically happens is I follow an approach that I grade you in part based on the improvement. Getting used to writing is a challenge, and so I understand that many of you come in without a strong background in writing and proper citation usage. So what that means is as we go through the semester, as I see improvement in the quality of the essays that you submit, they tend to override the earlier ones in which you were perhaps not quite as successful. So the fact that you've not gotten as good a grade as you would have thought on the first few essays, keep in mind that improvement gets calculated in. And that's something to think about. If you have questions, by all means, reach out to me. Enjoy writing. I enjoy looking forward to reading your essays, and have a great week. If you need me, please contact me. And as I've said often, I am available to set up a Zoom meeting on phone, email as needed to make sure you're feeling comfortable with what we're going with this. Now, for future reference, our second independent research will be on the issue of abortion, and that's coming up next month. And these are designed to let you do a little research on your own. We mentioned at the beginning of the semester and in your syllabus types of sources that you can use. Again, if you have questions, please contact me, and we'll make sure you're comfortable with what the assignments are. Happy writing, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.